Okay, I'm about to show you how kind of I make the helium-3 and 4 cryostat tails, and I'm just showing you my lab desk right now. It's really messy. This is where my main work is done, and this is kind of the rest of the lab here. It's really big. This workstation is the girl named Audrey. She works there, and there's like a back part. There's two microscopes, both of those. Each one of those is probably worth about, I forgot if it was $20,000 or $50,000. They're really expensive. And there's a big area up there for storage. Anyway, okay, so the tails look like these. These are shorter ones. They're not even the frame. So this is what they look like. They're really thin wall, and that's what we're going for. But yeah, these are short ones. They're pretty heavy duty. I mean, I can squish them a little. A little bit, but they're pretty. I'm just trying to squeeze it pretty hard. They're pretty dense. Some sandpaper. So here's a big box. Here's a box of a bunch of them. Two boxes of a bunch. Here's the G10 we use, and I cut this. They're this size because I cut it. It comes in these really huge sheets, and I cut them down. And what I do is I measure the thickness of that. You can kind of sort of see how thin that is. I measure the thickness, and each one of these is usually a different thickness. So anyway, that's the G10. Those are little Kim Whites I'm talking about. Gloves. I sand them right here. It's a really flat surface. That's really dense board, so yeah, that's where I do it. Do the sanding. Here's the big cutter. Here's kind of a bigger piece of G10, but the big box is over here. I don't know if you can tell how big that is, but that's what the G10 comes in. Okay, and these are the mandrels, and all of those are different sizes, and the size of the mandrel changes with what my boss needs. So here's just kind of some diagrams. I mean, I know you probably don't know what all that means, but that's the diagrams that I use to make them with the yellow. That's the mandrel. This little inner diameter is the mandrel. And then these, I just overemphasize the G10, the tube that I'll wrap around it. So that's the outer diameter of the jelly roll, which is jelly roll is helium-3 and 4 cryostat tail. We just call them jelly rolls. That's just, lab slang, I guess. Anyway, and then if you're interested, this is the caliper I use, and it's really nice. And I made a nice label, so when people use my stuff, they, hopefully will put it back. So, yeah. Pretty nice, I would say. It's not even on, but no big deal. Anyway, yeah, pretty nice. I think. Next, I'll show you the epoxy, which is over here. Oh, and here's some of the releases I use. I put the release in these little, squeeze bottles, and of course I made a nice ghetto label because they don't make the squeeze bottles, especially for the releases. But you can see it's just a clear liquid, and here's a couple more. So this is the cleaner. You can't really see it, but it's clear. That's the cleaner. It's an industrial cleaner, really toxic. So, and this is the sealant, and it's also clear. And this is the release. The first one I showed you is the release. And anyway, we do that in a specific order. And here's the scale for the epoxy. You can tell it's fancy. I'm not even kidding though. It's like 4 decimals past, 4 decimal. Pretty nice. Anyway, here's part B of the epoxy. Here's part A. So, yes, diecast 1266. What you do is you get this little tub and you fill it with part A here. We don't fill it. You just put a little bit, a little bit in there. And I use a tongue suppressor. These. Dump it, pour it, or put some in here. The calculation, so let's just say I had 10 grams of this, then I would do, 10, let me turn it on. I would do 10 times 1.28, which is just the ratio for part B. and it's 12.8. So that means I would add a couple of grams of this, of part B, into part A until the scale read 12.8. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how you do it. I use these little pipettes for part B to get it really exact, because I usually go for 2 to 3 decimal places of accuracy. Yeah, and so here's the Dremels. I use the Dremels, here's the one I use for cutting off the ends, because sometimes I have to take off the ends. Let's see, I don't really know what else I could show you. Here's the periodic table. That's pretty important. I don't use that for what I do, but you know, whatever. Chemicals up there, dry boxes for things that need to be dry. They put they put depleted uranium in the ones over here I'm about to take you to. Okay, here's all these have depleted uranium in them. And if I could find the really huge piece of depleted uranium to show you, I would. Yeah, let's see. I don't know if I can get it. I can't get in there. It's okay though. Oh, and here is a Geiger counter. This detects radioactivity, so these are just different settings. So set it down here. See if I got it. See if I got it right. Yeah. So each beep means something is throwing off radioactivity. So the closer I get to these dry boxes, I'm sure the more radioactive they are. Oh, it's actually not that bad. Yeah, so radioactivity in the area. If I opened up this box, it would probably go insane. No. Yeah, so there's some radioactivity coming from that. So it's pretty interesting. I think it's kind of cool. And I'm just going to turn this off so it doesn't die. Yeah, this is kind of where my boss does more of his work here. This is a cryostat. This isn't the one we use. This is kind of like an old one that they stopped using, or I don't know why it's actually here, but this is an above ground cryostat. A lot of the times these are underground. They're underground, so it's easy to access the very top. So all those little pipes up there, that's what would normally be at ground level, and you attach, stuff to it. You can fill it with liquid helium or liquid nitrogen, depending on what kind of cryostat it is. Here's a big nitrogen dewar, and if I opened up that valve, liquid nitrogen would come out of that tube right there. But I'm not going to do it because I need to have like gloves on and eye protection, and I'm trying to make this a not really long video. This is a leak detector, and I use that for my helium-3 and 4 cryostat tails. I would hook up the tube to this, and there's a lot of different little parts I could use to make it a good secure seal. But turn it on, let it calibrate, do its thing, connect the tail to that little piece right there, and then you get helium, which is in this bottle right here, and just a little bit of helium. It's not like you've got to have it on really full or anything, just a little bit. And you would spray a little bit of helium, like if that tube thing that I make is just connected, pretend that's my little tail thing. If it was connected here, then you would spray it just a little bit with with helium, and if helium can get through the material, it detects if there's helium present. And you want to have a low leak rate, because you want the materials to be not permeable whatsoever to it, because that's what the whole idea is. You want a good seal. Here's just a bunch of boxes of those drill rods, which are the same thing as mandrels, just a different word. Here's more of my tails. There's a trash can, really great and exciting, and I'm sure that's the vacuum down there. Oh, this is the vacuum tube that I cure my stuff in, my my tails. They go in that. It's not on right now, but this is warm. That's a heat tape, and it's heated by a Varian. That's a Varian, and it goes off of percentages. So I mean, let's just say you had this up at 60%, then it's of course going to be hotter because it's 60% of its power. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of it for what I do. There's another microscope right there, and we never use this. We never really use either one of those, honestly. I don't know why they're there. And here's a creepy picture of a kid. I don't know what that is, but you know, she talks to me sometimes. She tells me to do bad things to people, but I try to resist. All right, well, I guess that concludes my tour. There's the window. Here's my view, I guess. Not that I ever look out the window. Just kidding, I actually look out of it all the time. People, you can see out, but you can't see in these windows, and so, yeah, I get to spy on people, so it's great. Here's a soldering iron. Not that that's interesting. That's the soldering. There's the soldering gun. That's just the power supply. Yeah, there's a sharps box for when you're feeling sad and you need to slit your wrist. You just put the razor in that one, and if you need to slice yourself with some glass, you put it in this one. Yeah. All right. Here's some. These aren't real. I don't know why these are here, but all right. Well, I think that's it for now. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you later.